I know I used to have a song as the intro. I took that down, and right now that's my intro. So let's get into episode 3 of And Just Like That. It begins with a recording of the X, Y, and Me podcast. I can't even say the name of the podcast without laughing because it is bad. It is very bad. And it's bad because it's not a podcast, right? First and foremost, that shit is a fucking radio show. So, co-host Bobby Lee, I'm saying his real name, co-host Bobby Lee, he claims that he's being stalked by some girl. And then Che says that Bobby is so hot that she can barely keep her pants on. Che says, quote, I want to jump over this table and ride you like a motherfucking city bike. And by that, I mean, after I come, I want to dump you on 14th Street. Now, end quote. I understand this was supposed to be funny, but, I don't think anyone laughed. Like, I could speak for America when I say I don't think anyone laughed. Because, like, humor doesn't work like that. You're trying too hard. First of all, Bobby is not hot. He's not. But second of all, even if he was, would you really jump over the table? Or you want to jump over the table and ride him like a motherfucking city bike? Like, I'm very confused. Very. And then she means, and by that I mean, after I come, I want to dump you on 14th Street. What? Huh? He's so hot, according to you, that you just want to jump over the table and ride him like a bike. Who, like, what? Is this a sex position I don't know about? Like, riding somebody like a bike? And then you claim that you're going to come with Bobby Lee, which I question. And then you say that you want to dump him on 14th Street. What's going on 14th Street? And if he's so hot and he made you come, why are you dumping him on the street? Oh, I know. Because that's supposed to be a joke. Got it. Yeah, I had to break it down like a math question, like a math problem, because that's how little it makes sense to me. So then after Carrie claims that the girl who is stalking Bobby, her co-host, maybe just wants her credit card back, Che says, boom, see Bradshaw with the slam. Oh my God. It's like, tell us you're a 70-year-old writer without telling us you're 70. Nobody talks like this. Nobody who has a podcast talks like this. Anybody who talked like that, they like lived and died before podcasts were invented. So, I mean, come on. It's a lot. There's a lot going on. So everybody who writes for the show is like 90 years old. And it would explain why the 55-year-old characters have 80-year-old problems. The writers are just writing about their daily lives. Then Che hits a trigger warning button, a legit button that makes a noise during the podcast, because this podcast is a 90s radio show, and no one who writes for And Just Like That has ever listened to a podcast at any point ever, apparently, because it's like they're trying to figure out what is a podcast? It's a radio show, but called something else. That's how they write the podcast for us to see, which is horrifying. So then Che tells her co-host when she's outside and the podcast is done, her co-host Bobby Lee, she goes, I love it when you bring your pussy. And she says this when she was talking about her co-host Kat. This is the type of humor and comedy we are being served on this show. Like, I mean, I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. It's like these jokes, they're so bad. Okay, So then Carrie's hot producer chimes in to say that he agrees with Carrie. And there's some very obvious flirting going on between Carrie and her producer, but I hate and just like that so much that I legit don't even care if they fuck. Like, the guy is hot. I would love to take him down, but guess what? I don't even care if he fucks Carrie because this show is so horrifying. So then Che is talking to Carrie and she's like, how are you doing? And they talk about some zingers or whatever. And Carrie actually says, quote, thank God my husband died. And I just, we are given yet another reason to trash this show. And I hope the writers are happy with making so many people so upset and annoyed. Who says that about their husband unless they murdered their husbands? Fuck out of here. And what the fuck Carrie is wearing when she says this, like, it desperately needs a match and some lighter fluid. Like, it was some green ugly shit on top of some like peach shit. Like, it was so bad. It looked like some like two different pieces from two different costumes. It was horrible. So then Carrie says she's now going to go to the reading of Big's will, and she's with Miranda, and Carrie says that she's, quote, in the death trifecta, and she's like, maybe I'll eat something today. And so Big, we find out that Big left $1 million to the wife that he left for Carrie, and Carrie is furious, and she thinks that Big was having an affair with his ex, who they named Natasha Naginsky. Like, they made her last name Naginsky. That is the type of humor I am into. Naming her, giving her the last name of Naginsky is very funny. It's super subtle. It's not just the cheap, low-hanging fruit bullshit humor that they try to disguise as like natural and really awkward, unrealistic dialogue, or scenes in the dialogue. Or you get what I'm saying. Scenes in the dialogue, Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Apologize. I'm like no longer speaking English. So, I love that Natasha's name was Natasha Naginsky. And then we see that Carrie is out with lunch with Charlotte, Miranda, and Stanford. Carrie says that she'll switch seats with Stanford because, the waiters, they keep hitting him accidentally on his seat when they go in and out of the kitchen. And Carrie says, quote, I'll switch seats with you. I'm used to getting rammed from behind. Did Carrie's husband die? Because this is a joke about your your husband who died having sex with you. I'm lost. I am so lost. I haven't lost a husband, but I really need to know who talks like this, who loses a husband. Again, if you murdered your husband, this is how you speak. So maybe we don't know something about what happened to Big. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he was poisoned. He was drinking out of a water bottle, right? Wasn't he drinking out of a water bottle when he was on that Peloton? Maybe Carrie slipped something into the water bottle like Big was drinking and she offed it. Because what do you mean? You're used to getting rammed. Like, Big just died. Why are you talking about sex like this? Okay. So then Carrie, she's at home in her apartment and she's trying to hack into Big's email because that's what she's got to focus on. She's got to focus on if he was fucking Natasha. So, Charlotte's biological child tells Charlotte that she doesn't feel like a girl. And then Charlotte falls off of her bed in shock. Charlotte falling was supposed to be funny, but it wasn't funny because I don't know who wouldn't have fallen off of the fucking bed if they had a daughter who said that to them. That's just not what you're expecting to hear and randomly. And it wasn't funny. at all. I understand they wanted it to be funny, but it wasn't funny because it was realistic. I fall off the bed for reasons that are a lot smaller. So, moving right along, Steve's accent, Miranda's husband Steve's accent is so thick that I need subtitles. I think I had to rewind something once. Like, I don't know what language he's speaking. But I don't understand why his accent is so thick, but I need subtitles. So, I hope that subtitles can be added maybe at some point because I can't understand him. So then Carrie, she doesn't know her own house phone number. That's what we learn. We learn this because Carrie calls herself when she finds a number in Big's clothes, and it's her house phone. So, apparently we are supposed to think that Carrie is incredibly stupid because, yeah, we have cell phones, we aren't calling our homes, but you recognize a few digits in your home number, so you would recognize it's your fucking home phone number. That, I think, was another attempt at humor, at comedy, but per usual in this series, it just doesn't land. So then Charlotte wants to support her trans daughter. Carrie tells Miranda that she emailed to Natasha and that Natasha didn't email her back and that she hit her up on Instagram. Natasha didn't bite there. So then Carrie, Miranda, and Natasha, they all decide to stalk Natasha at her workplace because why not? And Natasha sees them all staring at her on the street. After Natasha's assistant denied Carrie access to her. And that was the very first time in the show that I actually laughed out loud. I thought it was super funny. Natasha's staring down at them and they're trying to hide it like Carrie's trying to hide. It's like, it was pretty funny. I enjoyed it because I would have done the same thing. So then Miranda tells Charlotte that she hasn't had sex with Steve in years, but remember in Sex and the City, the first movie, which was dope, Steve slept with some girl at a one-night stand because Miranda wasn't fucking him. So how is Steve not out here in these streets when Steve doesn't get sex, if he cheats because he doesn't get sex, who is he fucking if he hasn't gotten sex from Miranda for years? This needs to be addressed in the show, and I don't believe that it will be. I think it'll be like Steve, because he's 55/92, he's no longer interested in sex now. So then Miranda approaches Carrie, and Carrie is sitting on some steps, and then Miranda tells her, "You're the only 55-year-old sitting on the university steps." I mean, okay. I have never met anyone who talks like this, and I hope I never do. So if you know me IRL, which is very, very unlikely, and you're listening to this podcast, if I ever am just mentioning your age, or saying my age, please slap me across the face as hard as you can or punch me in the face every single time because I don't want to talk like this because I've never met anybody who talks like this. So then Carrie is seen walking around the city in heels because she claims that's her new way of dealing with Big's death. So it's like, okay, you're in pain inside, so then you want to be in pain on the outside too. Can you imagine how that would murder your feet? Walking for hours and hours and hours and hours. And Carrie legit says that her heels are her sneakers. It's like, can't you just do meth? Like, can't you do something healthier than that? To try to feel better about losing your husband that you said you used to get rammed by, and good thing your husband died. Like, Carrie, there's something very weird about how she's dealing with Big's death by just walking in heels and making sex jokes and trying to hack his email. It's all, I just don't know who copes with loss like this. So then Carrie tells Miranda, "I'm really mad at Big." And she has this speech about how she used to feel bad when they were together and now she's feeling bad again. I don't feel bad for you, Carrie, though, boo. I don't feel bad. You're a home wrecking hoe, and I don't care because your husband has every right to give a woman he left $1 million. They make it very clear that Biggs had so much money. I feel like he had 10 million on the low end or 20 million or so, right? So what's a 1 million to someone who feels guilt because they left their wife for you? Why do you care? Why, I don't feel bad for Carrie. I'm really disgusted and grossed out by how she reacted to finding out that Big left his wife some money. It's not for me. It's not. So then naturally, Carrie failed, as I said, at trying to stalk Natasha at her job. So she runs into Natasha at the coffee shop while Natasha's pissing. She walks, opens the door while Natasha is on the toilet because nobody would ever lock a bathroom door in a shop. So then Carrie spills coffee on herself, and then Carrie and Natasha have this sweet heart-to-heart. It made me like Natasha. Natasha looked incredible. That bitch is aging like a black person. She looks wonderful. She looks hot, sexy. I love it. It's exciting to see, right? When people age well, you're like, that is aspirational. So then next we are now at Che's next Netflix comedy special, and on this on the show, they called Che's performance a comedy concert, and I've never heard of a comedy show called a comedy concert, and I don't ever want to hear that again. None of it makes sense. Please make it stop. Have the writers been to a comedy show? And have they been to a concert? Why are they merging the two? Why? I'm so lost. So Che's quote unquote comedy, it was more like a dumb lecture than a comedy show, and it was more like a pep rally. It was very woke and dumb and pointless and stupid. I didn't get it. None of it made sense. None of it. I think her message was I'm happy and I wish that there was more representation of people like me because we're happy and live your life and change. It's how about you just sit down and shut up? That's the change I want to see from you, Che. And I love Che. I love her. I love the actress, Sarah Ramirez. I think Che is dope. I would hang out with her all the time, IRL, if she was a real person. But this quote-unquote comedy stuff, it's not for Che. That's where I draw the line. That's where my support comes to a crashing halt. So then Miranda is so excited at this comedy quote concert, and she decides to go to the after party with Che, and then Che blows weed into Miranda's face at the bar. And I need to know why the person who taped a Netflix special is not surrounded by her supporters and her friends and her fans at the after party. Why does she have all this time to have this one-on-one with Miranda, who was a cunt to her when she met her when she was smoking with pot with her son? Why is Che a superstar on stage, but nobody knows who the hell she is when she gets off the stage? So then when Charlotte tells Carrie that she thinks Miranda has a drinking problem, Carrie replies, quote, "If we're going to have this conversation, I'm going to need a drink. Could you stop noticing things?" And then Carrie walks into her apartment, and just like that. And so Carrie she's very, very nasty and rude and mean to Charlotte. It's so wrong. Carrie was complete garbage in this episode. She thought Big had an affair. She then wanted to stalk Big. She then tells her friend to shut the fuck up about her drinking problem. She's walking around in heels for therapy. I don't like her because I don't have a single reason to like Carrie in this episode. And I don't think that she needs to be this unlikable and this much of a bitch and this much of a psycho. Yeah, your husband gave $1 million to the person he was married to. What's the problem? Why are you stalking him, and why haven't you mourned him? Why are you literally saying, thank God my husband died? It was a lot. It was a lot. And so, I hope I wasn't too much of a lot and that I thank you for listening because again, I'm doing no editing on this shit. So God bless you for listening and I appreciate it. I banged out this, recap or review for episode 2 and 3. And now I want to get into episode 4 and 5 later today and put those out tomorrow. Fingers crossed. I'm still the idiot who's saying when they're going to put shit out, even though clearly I am not very accurate with that. But thanks for listening. You'll hear from me later.